Inside the Magic, show number 388 for September 9th, 2012. It is Sunday, September 9th, 2012. This is show 388, and we are easing into the Halloween season with a little bit of lighthearted, grim-grinning ghosts here in the background, kind of slowly working our way in because Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party starting this week, which means the Halloween season is upon us, my favorite time of the year, and we'll be hearing plenty about that on this week's show and in the coming weeks. Before we get to all of that, of course, I'm your host, Ricky Briganti, and we do have another great show packed with more than just Halloween, lots of Disney and theme park news, and a whole lot more fun. And before we get to all of that, I invite you to visit our website over at InsideTheMagic.net. There you'll find all of our podcasts, videos, photos, news, articles, and so much more. And if you ever have any news, tips, questions, comments of your own, you can always email me at ricky@InsideTheMagic.net, or you can call and leave a message at 407-494-4ITM. That's 4486. Calling in is a great way to contribute to the show when you're in the parks, walking around, notice something new, or if you just have a fun story to share. So take that number, put it in your cell phone, have it handy when you go into the parks, and call in from there. Makes it that much more fun. So anyway, let's get on with the show. This week's episode of Inside the Magic is brought to you by Magical Travel. Adventures by Disney Vacations are amazing, carefree family experiences with memories that will last a lifetime. 2013 itineraries are now available. Lay away your vacation today and receive up to a $500 Visa gift card when you book an Adventures by Disney vacation with Magical Travel. Call them today at 866-207-8387 or visit them online at magicaltravel.com to receive a free price quote, and be sure to mention Inside the Magic when you call them up or when you email them or whatever you do to receive your free Disney gift card for qualifying bookings when you book your Disney vacation with Magical Travel. And of course, thanks very much to listeners and viewers like you and anybody who's made a single donation, recurring monthly donation, or clicking through any of the affiliate links like Amazon.com before you shop at any of those stores over on our website. It all goes to support the show. So thanks very much for that. And now let's get started with our trip around the world. As the new Fantasyland opening date draws nearer and nearer, still a couple of months away, but there's little bits opening up and more information coming out. Of course, I'm talking about the new Fantasyland expansion at the Magic Kingdom out here at Walt Disney World, getting closer and closer to large portions of it becoming available, and Disney is revealing more and more information. The most interesting tidbit that came out this week is for Gaston's Tavern, part of the Beauty and the Beast area, of course, of new Fantasyland, and this tavern is going to have what they're calling a signature frozen drink, and they're calling it LeFou's Brew. LeFou, of course, being Gaston's kind of sidekick. It's a non-alcoholic drink. It'll be served in souvenir steins and goblets with Gaston on it or Belle on it, depending on your preference. What's really interesting about this drink, however, it's not exactly exclusive to Gaston's Tavern, despite the fact that they're calling it a signature frozen drink. The drink apparently is going to be identical to Red's Apple Freeze from the Cozy Cone out in Cars Land, which really has me excited because I loved that drink. If you remember from me talking endlessly about Cars Land a few weeks ago, or a couple months ago, I suppose it's been already. Time flies. I definitely ranted and raved, well, mostly raved about Red's Apple Freeze, a delicious drink for me, and it's frozen apple juice with a hint of toasted marshmallow worked in there, and then it's topped with a passion fruit and mango foam. Some have said the foam's a little too bitter, or the drink is not quite for them. Maybe it's not a universally popular drink, but a lot of people really enjoy it. I definitely love it, and I'm looking forward to having a chance to drink it out here in Florida instead of having to fly all the way to California to get it. What's most interesting about this drink, however, is the process for preparing it. Not the actual drink itself, but kind of the process, but basically pouring a frozen drink into a cup and then topping it with foam. Very, very similar to butterbeer over at Universal Orlando's Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Of course, butterbeer, a huge seller, huge moneymaker for Universal Orlando, and it's very clear that Disney wanted to get in on some of that action with this. It's a completely different drink, completely different flavor, but sort of that concept of having this foamy drink is definitely similar to butterbeer, so it'll be interesting to see how many guests take to this and if it gets to be as popular as the butterbeer has been. Also being served at Gaston's Tavern will be cinnamon rolls. That was announced this week, and everybody seems pretty excited about that. Of course, who doesn't love cinnamon rolls? So, should be pretty delicious. Gaston's Tavern not open yet. It's going to be open in time for that preview stage of New Fantasyland beginning November 19th, and then, of course, for the grand opening on December 6th. And continuing to talk about New Fantasyland, a new website, official website from Disney has popped up this week. It's a special sort of teaser website at the moment, all about New Fantasyland. You can find it at disneyworld.disney.go.com/new-fantasyland. Kind of a long address, but it right now just shows sort of a nighttime backdrop with a forest and Cinderella Castle and a moon shining up overhead, and the text that kind of scrolls across the screen reads, "A fantastical land exists. A curse hides it from our view. A hero is needed to break the spell. That hero could be you." A little bit of a rhyming poem of sorts there, inviting anybody going to the website to enter your email address and sign up for updates that will, quote, break the curse when the time draws near, end quote. Of course, that just means you'll find out more information about New Fantasyland as soon as they are able to or are ready to reveal it. If you click around a little bit, there's also a map that you'll find on the site that shows a variety of portions of New Fantasyland, and somebody over on our Facebook page actually pointed out that this map looks strikingly similar in style to the preview map that Universal put out for the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, kind of this parchment look with very rough brown sort of sketch lines. Definitely very, very similar. I found that pretty interesting, but as you click around, you get descriptions of various areas of New Fantasyland, Little Mermaid Ride, Be Our Guest Restaurant, etc. Missing from the map are the areas of New Fantasyland that will be opening in coming years. Princess Fairy Tale Hall, as well as the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Disney clearly is not looking to promote those areas just yet. They're just promoting the areas that will be opening just a couple of months from now. So really looking forward to that. You can keep checking back onto that website to really sort of stay on top of it. And after you sign up with an email, you should get an email a little while later that says, more information coming soon. A good official way to stay on top of New Fantasyland progress. Speaking of ongoing projects, here's some particularly interesting news, and you probably should put the word news in quotation marks because it's unclear as to whether or not there's any truth to this whatsoever, but some pretty big websites, IndieWire, followed by IGN. This week we're reporting some news, if you will call it that, on Avatar, not only saying that the Avatar movies, the sequels, number 2, number 3, and possibly even number 4, if that's ever going to get made, apparently those have been pushed back, that James Cameron, director and creator of Avatar, simply is not ready to pursue the same sort of timeline or schedule with those films that he had previously hinted at, that it's going to take a bit longer, some unknown amount longer. Also noted, though, related to Disney here, is that Avatar Land, or Pandora, or whatever you want to call it for Disney Animal Kingdom, according to these articles, this land is going to be delayed, perhaps forever? It's unclear at this point. They're saying that there have been some pretty severe creative differences between James Cameron and Disney about the direction of the area, and it's sort of an unfounded pair of articles at this point. There's no real concrete sources. They sort of, rode around the bush. I don't know, kind of the change of an expression there, saying that since we haven't seen any concept art yet, they're just not sure. It's totally unclear at this point. All signs continue to seem to point to the fact that Avatar is still something being worked on by Disney, but it is interesting to see this pair of fairly major websites reporting that there have been some delays in the project. Of course, Disney's not saying anything officially, so it's one of those, we'll just continue to wait, and we'll see what they have in store for everybody with the world of Avatar, or perhaps not. So this week over at Disney's Hollywood Studios, kind of a interesting announcement was made. They held a very small media event, basically to quote-unquote announce that additional 1,000 seats or benches, bench seating, will be added to the Hollywood Hills Amphitheater to allow more seating for Fantasmic. Not a mind-blowing announcement or anything, probably not worthy of holding a media event, but I guess they really wanted everybody to know that you'll be able to sit, more people will be able to sit, about 1,000 more people will be able to sit than stand, standing room only, kind of replacing that with seats over at Fantasmic. So that's a good thing. Not groundbreaking or anything, but good to know there's more seats over there. So as I said at the top of the show, Halloween season certainly approaching rapidly. The first Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party is just a couple of days away from now. I'm actually going to be going this week on Friday. I will be there. I haven't decided if I'm going to wear a costume yet or not. Still kind of toying with that idea in my head. But for what's really interesting is just a couple of nights ago, a couple hours after the park closed, about 11:45 p.m., there was some booming in the skies, and it seemed Disney was testing the Happy Hallowishes fireworks for Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, and those who are very familiar with the show noticed that the fireworks they were launching weren't exactly the same as they have been in the past. It was very similar, a lot of familiar elements, but then there were some that kind of made a lot of people go, I didn't recognize that part. So could be that this year we're seeing an updated version of Hallowishes, or maybe they were just testing something else. Who knows? So we'll find out soon enough as Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party debuts the Magic Kingdom this week. Now, a few weeks ago, maybe even a couple of months ago, we mentioned that there was a new official Walt Disney World application, a mobile application for iPhone and iPod Touch called My Disney Experience, offering wait times and maps and character greeting times and all that good stuff. And all of you Android users out there were wondering, well, what about me? When do I get that My Disney Experience app? Well, apparently, if you go onto Google Play, you can now download the My Disney Experience app for your Android device as well. Here's a pair of pretty fun events, certainly sounds rather tasty, that are coming up related to Epcot's International Food and Wine Festival, which is starting just a couple of weeks from now. Always looking forward to that. You will have a chance to meet John Lasseter, of course, yes, that John Lasseter from Pixar and Disney Animation and everything else, and his wife Nancy. They're going to be at Citrico's out here at Walt Disney World for lunch at 12:30 p.m. on October 19th. It is an event not related to animation, but rather the Lasseter family wines. In addition to being heavily involved in the world of animation, John and his wife Nancy do have their own label of wines, and they'll be pairing that along with seasonal cuisine at Citrico's. The cost to attend and dine with the Lasseters is $130. Not a bad price for that experience. Meanwhile, Kat Cora, the very famous chef. She's got Cuisina over at the Boardwalk, and of course she's on Food Network and all that kind of thing. She's going to have 2 wine dinners associated with the Food and Wine Festival. It's 8 p.m. on October 2nd and October 4th. Those are $170, but you get a 5-course dinner, and you'll be there with Kat Cora. I had the pleasure of meeting her when she opened up Cuisina. I guess it's been a few years now. Very, very nice, wonderful, warm person and personality. So I'm sure anybody dining with her and enjoying the 5-course dinner will certainly enjoy that. Now let's turn away from Disney a little bit, over to about 45 minutes away or so to Legoland, Florida, where this week a new announcement was made about the quote-unquote tiniest part of Legoland, Florida, is the Mini-Land section, my favorite part of the park, where they have all these sort of cityscapes from around the country, and they're made out of course, Lego bricks and very, very impressive animated interactive things. Well, they have now announced that they are expanding Mini-Land, similar to what was recently happened at Legoland, California, with Star Wars. A new Star Wars cluster, as they call it, will be opening up in November of this year, featuring millions of Lego bricks forming familiar scenes and vehicles and characters from all 6 Star Wars films, as well as the Clone Wars TV series. So all you Star Wars fans out there, while you may not be getting a land devoted to Star Wars at Disney ever, or quite not yet, you can at least enjoy this mini land. Now, it's not like a mini land, like in terms of Disney's lands, but it's part of the mini land, as Lego calls it. In addition, there will also be a new meet and greet there with Lego Darth Vader, a much larger version of Lego Darth Vader, a very tall, 5-6 foot tall one that you can get your picture with, as well as life-size Lego Star Wars character sculptures. All of that, again, is opening in November at Legoland, Florida. And here's some news that I am really excited about in the world of Halloween Horror Nights over at Universal Orlando. I have been told that Penn and Teller, the magician duo from Las Vegas, they're, of course, having their haunted house at Universal Orlando this year. They will be there on opening night of Halloween Horror Nights. Very, very exciting. I've seen them, I think, twice, maybe 3 times, and I've met them both before. Great guys, and I'm looking forward to seeing them again. I don't know in what capacity they're going to be there, if they're only going to be talking to the media that night, or if they're going to make a special appearance by their house, or if they're going to do any kind of a public anything, but they will be there in some capacity on opening night, which is September 21st. Not very far off. Really looking forward to it. Back to the world of Disney, but turning our attention to California now. Here is a great story about very popular actor Christian Bale. Of course, most recently he was in the Batman film that has done very well. All those great Batman films. Well, he, this week, just a couple of days ago, took it upon himself to fly a 4-year-old leukemia patient named Jaden Barber and his entire family to Disneyland and dine with them at Disneyland's Club 33. A wonderful gesture. This poor kid has been dealing with having a cancer battle for such a long time, and Christian Bale took the time to really reach out and make this whole family's life just have a wonderful experience. So it's a really nice gesture for such a popular actor to do, and what better place to do it at than Disneyland's Club 33. Now, with that said, I've got some not-so-great news from Disney California Adventure. It seems those wonderful, wonderful windows all up and down Buena Vista Street are, they're kind of succumbing to the mercy of the merchandise people at Disney. The Imagineers so very carefully crafted and themed these windows up and down Buena Vista Street to match the whole theme of the area. Each window is individually, very carefully picked names and props that went in each one, but they didn't necessarily relate to the merchandise that were inside. And of course, the folks at Disney, whose job is to sell things, really want their merchandise in the windows. So they have taken it upon themselves to kind of clutter up these windows with a variety of merchandise that has nothing to do with the store theme itself. For example, there's Julius Katz's window, very uncluttered, beautiful looking sort of repair shop theme. Has now become filled with all kinds of miscellaneous. There's a mannequin in there now wearing a Disney shirt, and some ear hats and other miscellaneous merchandise is just kind of sitting around now. Definitely sort of a disappointing change there. Another one that's a really great window was the Atwater Ink and Paint, themed to the concept of art and animation. Had all these little paint buckets and an animator's desk in there. And now, if you look in that window, you see a horrid display of kitchenware and Mickey aprons and oven mitts, and it's just laid right on top of animation things. Apparently, also the sort of baseball-themed window with the Buena Vista Street jerseys that are right in the front of the Los Feliz 5 and Dime. That apparently has been cluttered with Cars merchandise as well. So it's unclear as to where this balance is going to find itself in the future, if that's how it's going to stay, because they're worried about the merchandise sales. Of course, these are stores. They do have to have a business there. They do have to make money, or else there's no point really having them, although some would argue the point of having them is to enjoy Buena Vista Street and contribute to the whole theme. So there's definitely a balance to be played there, paid attention to there, because it really is all part of what Buena Vista Street is all about. I'm a little disappointed. I really had a wonderful time kind of browsing through all of those windows, even if they didn't show anything that I could actually purchase in the store. It was part of the theming. It would be the equivalent, I suppose, of taking a highly decorated queue for an attraction and throwing a bunch of random merchandise in there. So Yeah, anyway, moving on from there to something completely different. Let's see. I actually got an email from Melissa. Here's a fun event that is coming out. Melissa let me know about an Imagineering LinkedIn group called Theme Park Technical Training and Design, and it's done by a group, as she says, Live Design International. Apparently, it's going to have 2 days of in-depth technical theme park training at Disneyland and Disney California Adventure, October 22nd and 23rd, a Monday and Tuesday. It's $895, so that's pretty expensive. That's if you register now. After September 14th is $995. There's a website, ldishow.com, and they're going to have all kinds of behind-the-scenes tours and 2 days worth of exploring the parks and really getting in-depth into the making of things in the parks. It sounds pretty impressive, but of course it is pretty pricey as well. So it'd be interesting if anyone takes them up on that hefty price, and I'd love to hear all about it. Moving on from there to the Disney Cruise Line. This week, Disney played up their early 2013 offerings, the new itineraries that they're going to be departing from Galveston, Texas on the Disney Cruise Line. In addition to 6-night Western Caribbean sailings, there will be some new choices, including a 4-night Caribbean getaway cruise, as they're putting it, along with 8-night itineraries to Walt Disney World, as well as to the Bahamas, including Disney's private island Castaway Cay. Always enjoyable there. So if you're going to be sailing out of Texas, pay attention. Early 2013, you got some new options. And now let's turn to the world of movies, where I was at Party City just the other day, just yesterday, in fact. Of course, doing my usual rounds as I do every year, looking at Halloween decorations as they begin to pop up in the stores, Party City being one of many stores that I visit every year. And my wife mentioned or noticed while we were in the store that they now have some party supplies for Wreck-It Ralph. So those of you looking forward to that movie coming out in November, you can already buy some tablecloths and napkins and plates and all that stuff with Wreck-It Ralph's image on it to have your own Wreck-It Ralph party. And hitting theaters very, very soon, September 14th, will be Finding Nemo 3D, the 3D conversion of course, Finding Nemo. And also in front of that is the Toy Story short Partysaurus Rex, that newest Toy Story short. And we sent Josh Dawes just a few days ago to see the film and the short and review it for us. Not going to include that here on the show, but if you head on over to InsideTheMagic.net, you can read his review, which, in short, he definitely thought the 3D looked fantastic in Finding Nemo. Here's an interesting note from Calvin, who wrote in about, I know I've mentioned this before, there was an Avengers super-duper box set of all the Avengers-related films, including The Avengers, and it was going to come out pretty soon, within the next a few weeks. It was going to have this really cool-looking silver briefcase. When you opened it up, it would light up and be really fancy. Well, Calvin has written in to let me know that because of some legal issues, Disney has had to delay this set, perhaps changing it completely. Apparently, this style of briefcase that Disney was using was not exactly within their rights to do so. Apparently, there was some other company out there that was making nearly the same or perhaps an identical briefcase, and Disney did not sort of seek their permission to use that design, and they weren't too happy about it. So he's comparing it, Calvin compares it when he wrote in to that Luxo lamp story from a few years ago when Disney put out a DVD set with a Luxo lamp, and not realizing that Luxo, of course, is a real brand. And as soon as Disney crossed from sort of using Luxo as the icon of Pixar into the actual world of manufacturing a lamp, that became a legal issue. Well, apparently the same thing has happened with this briefcase for the Avengers case as well. So it seems while the Marvel Cinematic Universe collection will eventually come out, it may not quite be in that form that they had previously announced. And here's some more sort of legal controversy, except this time it's in Disney's favor. Well, at least Disney hopes it's in their favor. There's a British production company called Bright Spark Production. If you've ever been in a store and you've seen one of those films that kind of looks like a Disney film but isn't quite, like maybe you saw Braver instead of Brave, or Tangled Up instead of Tangled, or The Frog Princess instead of The Princess and the Frog, or maybe even Little Cars instead of Cars. Yeah, those were all done by Bright Spark Production, clearly piggybacking off of Disney's properties, but giving it just a little bit of a twist. And Disney's saying these are severely confusing consumers, and they are asking this company, Bright Spark, to stop producing these, stop selling them, and it's unclear at this point as to the outcome of that, but I have a feeling that Disney will win that battle. It's pretty obvious that these films are not the original Disney version. Final bit of news this week from Walt Disney Animation Studios at the Telluride Film Festival just a week ago. They debuted the newly restored digital print of the once-thought-lost 1928 Oswald the Lucky Rabbit animated short Hungry Hobos. In addition, they also showed Paperman, which will be ahead of Wreck-It Ralph in theaters coming up in November. So good to see Disney working on bringing back some of the old Oswald shorts, even ones that they thought were going to be gone forever. They managed to put it all back together and showed it off at a film festival recently, and I'm really looking forward to seeing Paperman. Of course, we talked with Jeremiah a couple of weeks ago, Jeremiah Dawes from Destination D. He saw Paperman out there at the D23 event in California, said it was absolutely amazing, and really looking forward to seeing that as well. So that is it for your news from around the world this week. Here's a good tip from Alex, who writes, if I remember correctly, somebody asked for a good place to get coffee in Disneyland on your recent show, and here's some feedback on this, which would serve as a tip for today. During my recent stay at Disneyland in April, I found the small coffee and sweets shop on the right side of halfway down Main Street, just on the corner of the small cross street. There you can not only get a decent fresh coffee, you can also choose between plain or 2 different flavored varieties, and that's not all. In addition, they invite you to come back anytime during the day with your receipt and get fresh coffee for free. Needless to say, with every serving, you are free to choose and try out another flavor. It's a really nice discovery that I enjoyed a lot. Alex, great tip there. As I said when that listener previously asked about coffee at Disneyland, I do not drink coffee, so I had nothing to offer there, but it sounds like you've come up with a great idea for those visiting Disneyland to get not only one bit of coffee, but have enough coffee to last you throughout the day, and even try a variety of flavors as well for all of you coffee drinkers out there. So everyone else, email your tips into tips@insidethemagic.net. And now, before we jump into a fun little feature here on the show, actually a pair of interviews, I would like to share a quick word about Theme Park Connection. If you're a Disney collector and you haven't checked out Theme Park Connection yet, you are missing out. You can visit them in person here in the Orlando area or online. Either way, or both ways, you will definitely find plenty of really unique and rare Disney collectibles. Not only things you would buy on a store or in a shelf or on the shelves that you normally see, but things you never thought you could get your hands on and purchase, from the theme park signs, costumes, props, all that kind of thing. If you visit their warehouse and store out here in Winter Garden, Florida, about 15 or so minutes north of the Magic Kingdom, you can explore it all, sift through decades, literally decades of Disney history, just flipping through papers and working your way through old plushes and all kinds of great stuff that you will surely find something that will want to make you bust out the credit card and make a purchase. If you don't find it there, or if you can't make it there, you're going to want to head to their website, themeparkconnection.com. Of course, you can find your way to the store by going to their website, but you can also find their online eBay store, where they're listing hundreds of items every single week as well. So check it all out over at themeparkconnection.com. So as I said a couple of times on this show, we are easing our way into the Halloween season here, and I had a great opportunity. Actually, I didn't personally, because it was all the way in California, but I was able to send Jeremiah does to a wonderful opportunity out in California. Now, I will warn you right now, this is not going to be for everybody, because we're going to be talking a little bit about Halloween Horror Nights here at Universal Studios Hollywood. We're going to be talking actually specifically about the makeup and the costuming, really focusing on the makeup, because it's a really interesting sort of field out there. Whether you're talking about Halloween or not. Just makeup in general, if you watch TV, you watch movies, it's really fascinating, at least to me, to see how these prosthetics and all of that is created and accomplished, especially in a mass, consumed theme park environment like Universal Studios Hollywood, or even if it's Disney or wherever it is. The achievements that they are able to make the artists in this area are definitely something that can be appreciated by anybody, whether you like sort of the Halloween environment or not. Of course, I certainly do, and I know many of you do as well. Halloween Horror Nights, of course, is very, very popular, and Jeremiah had a chance to chat with two people who make it all happen out in California. The first is creative director of Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios Hollywood, John Murdy. We've had him on the show here before. Great guy, very, very excited about what he does, very passionate, and here today, just for a couple of minutes, he is going to be talking all about sort of the creation of the makeup and how it's applied each and every night throughout the event and all the preparation that goes into it. So let's hop on over to take a little peek behind the scenes at Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios Hollywood, hearing from the man, John.
It's basically Chris Williams and I, when we're setting out to create anything. If it's a movie, then we're obviously drawing from the unit photography from the film and all the photo reference from the film, and that defines what we're creating, because we're trying to replicate something that always exists. If it's something that we're creating, like say something like Alice Cooper Goes to Hell 3D, which is more of an original thing that doesn't exist, then the first thing we do is we work with concept artists. And today at one of our stations we have Lucas Colshaw, who's a big movie concept artist that every single year draws all those characters that you guys see when we release them. Every one of those is Lucas. And so Chris and I will come up with the ideas. We'll define what we want. We'll do research and pull a photo reference that might help inform what the physical thing is going to look like. And then Chris will direct Lucas, and Lucas will draw it up. And then once we have the full body and the headshot of that particular character, that's when we engage the makeup artist, and we'll work with Larry Bones or Pat McGee. And they have all these incredibly talented sculptors that work for them, and then they have to physically sculpt it out of clay. And then there's that process of back and forth, and then once that's good, then it's like baking a cake. It all has to be baked in the oven, and then whether it's a mask or a prosthetic, and then it has to be painted, and hair has to be punched. One strand at a time. It's a long, involved process. And we don't do anything off the shelf. It's all created from scratch. We don't go to a store and buy a mask. In the case of like Walking Dead, the majority of those characters on the show are prosthetics. So we're trying to stay true to the show. So I think we have over 2,000 prosthetics that we've created just for Walking Dead. It's pretty insane that's what you have to do to get the authenticity of the look of the show. Of course, if we're working with partners like AMC's The Walking Dead, we're working directly with Greg Nicotero. Even though Greg is out in Atlanta making season 3 right now, I'm trading emails and sending Greg stuff constantly. He was here last week, and he's the guy who created all this stuff. So he holds that vision, and so and in some cases Greg's creating it for us, like Well Walker and Bicycle Girl and things like that. Those are right out of the molds from the show.
Very, very exciting. A little bit from John Murdy there, just talking about, the makeup in general. Very impressive effort. They go through just an insane number of prosthetics and masks and all the paint that goes into it. It's an amazing, just a work of art, really, that they put into the event in preparation, and then each and every of the many nights, beginning just a couple of weeks from now, lasting all the way through Halloween. Jeremiah, of course, conducted that interview for us during that special media event just a couple of days ago. He also had a chance to talk to a man by the name of Larry Bones. There's a guy named Larry Bones who works on Halloween Horror Nights out there. He's a makeup artist, and he's got an incredibly talented team that he sort of heads up, and they all put together these ghoulish creatures that haunt the nights of Halloween Horror Nights. And Jeremiah had a chance to talk to him just for a couple of minutes about sort of a brief overview of what goes into sort of deciding whether or not it's a prosthetic versus a whole mask for a certain character, as well as how makeup artists have and can get involved into Halloween Horror Nights, and his own personal sort of history, Larry's history. So here is just a few words from Larry Bones, makeup artist for Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios Hollywood.
Something along the lines of like Walking Dead, but you would see that on the television show. These are prosthetics. We knew we had to make these prosthetics. We couldn't create these as a mask. It just wasn't going to play. When we do masks, it's usually a character that can't be really pulled off dimensionally. It's something this area. It's something that has some gigantic horns or something along those lines. That's when we'd make that call to turn it into a mask. But generally, we'd like to keep these into prosthetics as much as we can. Obviously, for sheer movement, and this is a movie studio, we want to keep the stuff as film quality as we can keep it. Most of these artists have been with me for years, and they come back because they love this event so much, they come back. And then it's usually word of mouth after that. So if there's any open spots, I usually have hundreds of resumes by that point of people, I want to do it, I want to do it. It's something I've always done as a child. I've always loved Universal movies and monster movies, and I always loved drawing and things like those. I moved down here in '93. I went to makeup school myself, and just haven't looked back.
There you go. Just a few quick words all about the makeup and the creation of Halloween Horror Nights. We're going to leave it at that for the moment, just to sort of, as I said, easing into the Halloween season. I know it is still very early in September, and that's a long time to be talking about Halloween between the next 2 months, so I'll kind of just be littering it in just a little bit here and there for everybody's enjoyment, particularly my own. If you do want to see more about the makeup and the costuming from Halloween Horror Nights from Universal Studios Hollywood, head on over to InsideTheMagic.net in another day or two. We'll be posting much, much more from Jeremiah out there at that event. And now, before we jump into listener feedback, and quite a lot of it this week to round out the show for the next however long it takes to get through all of it, let me put in just a quick word about LanyardLab.com. I'm going to make this the quickest Lanyard Lab ad ever. LanyardLab.com is where you want to go to customize your own lanyards for just about any purpose out there. Click on Get a Quote, submit that your information to us. We'll email you back with a quote and a proof. Simple as that. LanyardLab.com.
Hi, Ricky. Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Ricky, this is amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Inside the Magic listener feedback.
So here we are, listener feedback already, and for the last couple of weeks we've kind of had this ongoing dialogue of a lot of really great feedback, and I've been enjoying it, so I want to keep encouraging everybody to call in or write in with anything that you have. I've been getting a lot of feedback about the feedback, actually, that everybody's been enjoying sort of this back and forth, so I want to keep that up and keep it going and having sort of this variety of topics that we've been discussing over the last few weeks, and we'll just keep it rolling right now, starting with, of course, this topic has surfaced once again with a spin on it. We'd been talking about, inspired by the opening of Cars Land a couple of months ago. I can't believe this has been going on this long. Inspired by that opening when John Lasseter was joking around about what Bob Iger and Tom Staggs would look like as Cars characters, and then evolved into what would Walt Disney be as a Cars character, and then most recently somebody asked, what would I be as a Cars character? What kind of a car would I be? And I didn't have an answer for it at the time, throwing out just some silly answers. I think that was last week. Well, both John and Shelley wrote in with a pretty obvious answer that I should have thought of, though it isn't exactly a car. John and Shelley both agreed that I should be a doom buggy. Of course, the Haunted Mansion ride vehicle. So, yeah, if you want to stick a pair of eyes and any of my personal expression features on a doom buggy, then that would certainly make sense. I had a couple of other suggestions that I apologize. I don't have your names who suggested this. I can't figure out why. I don't know if it was in an email that I lost or if maybe you just suggested it on Twitter or Facebook or something. So, anyway, if you want to write to me again and let me know who you are, I'll be happy to say your name next week. But I did have somebody say I should be a Segway, and that's pretty amusing. I could definitely see that since I love that thing and I own one, and it's a lot of fun. Somebody else said I should be a hearse. Again, makes perfect sense with my love of everything Halloween. And then I do have a name for this one. Aaron wrote in with some kind of bizarre ideas, saying, has nothing to do with you as a person. Nice play on your name. What about the Briganti Veyron? It's a play on the Bugatti Veyron. So, yeah, I could see that. Briganti Bugatti. That works for me. He also said, and this one's just simply silly, how about a rickshaw instead of a rickshaw? Anyway, and actually right now in the chat room, it's Epcot Center said, Ricky doesn't need a car, he hitchhikes. Again, perfect right there. So, yeah, I don't necessarily need everybody to be writing in and letting me know what kind of a car I am, but if you come up with something particularly clever, feel free to send it in. Next up, an email from Michael who writes, Ricky, this is my favorite time of year, and I'm going back and listening to your past Halloween episodes. I love it. I hope that Universal has the webcam like they did a couple of years ago. I love living vicariously through you and those webcams of Halloween Horror Nights because I'm way too chicken to go there myself. Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party is a lot more my speed. So my question is this. I will be at Orlando on business at the end of September and can possibly go to the parks for 2 or maybe 3 days. I can go to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party on a Friday. Too scared for Halloween Horror Nights at Universal. So here's my question. If I go to Universal on a Thursday and get a 1-day, 1-park ticket for Universal Studios, can I see, or I can see some of the sets for Halloween Horror Nights, right? Will I have enough to fill an entire day at Universal? Is there anywhere to get a butterbeer other than Islands of Adventure at the Harry Potter part? The park hopper passes are just too expensive for 1 day at Universal to me. Also, if I go to a park Thursday, Universal or Disney, and then Not So Scary on Friday, when can I get into the park? At 4 p.m.? Could I look around the resorts and possibly fill up an entire day up to Not So Scary? Do you have any suggestions, or just browse around at the resorts and downtown Disney? Michael, great questions there. I certainly understand being a little too chicken to go to Halloween Horror Nights. It is an intense event, not for everybody by any means, and Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party is always great fun. As I said earlier, I'm going just a few days from now on Friday, and I'm sure I will enjoy Not So Scary, though every year I probably say this, and it's a little frustrating that Not So Scary is exactly the same event every single year. It's one of the things I love about something like Halloween Horror Nights. Not only is it just a fun, insane event, but it changes 100% year to year to year. So it's like a whole new set of attractions to be welcomed to a theme park environment every year, to marvel at the detail and the amazing creativity of the talented folks behind it all, and they pump it out every single year. Meanwhile, over at Not So Scary, it's a fun event, sure, but for those who want to return year after year after year, you're like, yeah, I'm back and I'm seeing the exact same thing once again. I'm certainly going to go. I'm certainly going to have fun. I'm going to go ride the Haunted Mansion. It's extra spooky during that time. You got the butlers and the maids all dressed up, and they're, got cobwebs on them, and, special lighting and people on the lawn and all that good stuff. It's fun. Definitely. I would just like a little change once in a while, kind of give it a more than just this silly street jam thing they're adding this year. But anyway, to answer your questions, I even have to go back because now I've ranted so long I can't even remember your questions. If you go to Universal, yes, you will definitely see some of these sets that they have set up for the street areas of Halloween Horror Nights during the day. There will be no scares. You can kind of explore that. You might even want to look into one of their tours, or their lights-on tours without the scares, and you can really appreciate the details, though I don't know if that's going to work out with your schedule. But is there enough to fill an entire day at Universal? More than, not just the Halloween Horror Nights stuff during the day. Definitely not. You'll probably spend half an hour looking at those, wandering through the streets, and then you'll want to go ride the rides. And yeah, there's certainly plenty of fun rides to do there at Universal, but if you're really looking to get a butterbeer, you are going to have to go to Islands of Adventure. Unfortunately, you're not going to find that at Universal Studios, so you're going to have to pick one or the other. If you want to, go get a butterbeer and just kind of peek at the decorations that are outside the archway for Halloween Horror Nights, you'll see just a tiny little bit, but it's probably not enough to really appreciate anything. As far as going to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, if you've got that ticket to get in, of course you can, like you said, get in at 4 p.m. With that nighttime party ticket. But before that, if you're not wanting to buy another ticket for the park, there's definitely plenty to explore around Walt Disney World. Certainly walking around downtown Disney, you can easily kill a few hours doing that, browsing through the stores, dining at a good restaurant there. Certainly walking around the resorts is a great way to really take up some time and enjoy it. You can, lounge around poolside or just enjoy all the decorations, walk around the lakes, go onto the Polynesian beach, all of that kind of thing. So definitely a lot of options to do. I think you could easily fill a half day before going to into the Magic Kingdom at 4 p.m. So hopefully that answered your question. Next up, a rather long email from Steven touching on a number of different topics, so let's just launch right into it. And Steven says, next year in August, my friend and I are going to be taking a trip to California and visit Disneyland and the D23 Expo. We'll also be stopping off at Universal Studios Hollywood to check out the new additions there, and I have a few questions, and please make suggestions/money-saving tips about the plans I am about to elaborate on. It'll be my friend's first trip to a Disney theme park since he was too young to remember, and I wanted to make it as memorable as possible. As soon as we get there, we're thinking about renting a car for the first few nights. Do you typically rent cars in California? If so, which company? We're planning on getting the car at LAX. Are there many car rental places within walking distance of the Anaheim Convention Center? Et cetera, et cetera. He kind of elaborates on that concept. Would you recommend any different hotels at Universal or the Convention Center area? And then we're going to move to the Disneyland Hotel on property. So I'm going to stop. There's much more to the email there, but I'll stop that there so I can answer those questions. Definitely good questions that I have sort of found my own personal preferences over the years that I've been going there. To answer your question about rental cars, LAX, you're not going to find a problem finding a rental car there. There's every rental car company that you can imagine comes out of LAX. Very, very reasonable prices as well. In my personal experience, budget has been a problem at LAX. I wait in long, long lines. It takes forever. The people are not exactly friendly, and they don't seem to care. And just budget. It's budget. It's going to be one of your cheapest options, but not a fan at LAX specifically. Enterprise has always treated me very, very well at LAX, so you might want to look in that direction. As far as dropping off in Anaheim, there are some options there where you can take it one way and then leave it at Anaheim. I know Enterprise does have a location around there because I've done just that. There may be an additional fee to pick up from one location and drop off in another, so you definitely want to be aware of that as well. As far as hotels in the area, I'm not sure about Universal. I've never stayed in a hotel around Universal Studios Hollywood, so I can't make any recommendations there. Around the Convention Center, so it's 10-15 minutes away from Disneyland walking distance. So really any of the hotels up and down Harbor Boulevard are going to be okay, but if you want to stay really, really close to the Convention Center to be able to get in and out of the D23 Expo very, very easily, you're going to want to focus on the area around Catella and Harbor Boulevard, not really closer to Disneyland. I stayed at the Annabella last time, which was all right. I can't rant and rave about it, but it was pretty good. Not spectacular, but different. So certainly something you could consider. Joe King 123 in the chat room is recommending the Hilton Anaheim, and so those are look up and down sort of the Catella area for the Convention Center. So moving on to your next paragraph for your email. Now you're writing, as far as Universal goes, how many days do you think we'll need to see everything? I'm thinking a full day should be sufficient. Yes, Stephen, you are right there. I don't think you need more than one day for Universal Studios Hollywood by any means. One day will be plenty to enjoy everything there. Just get there at the beginning of the day, stay till the end, and you will certainly be able to enjoy that. Moving on, he says about the D23 Expo itself, I see that tickets are available now online and that the Sorcerer's packages are sold out. I am a D23 member, will be purchasing 2 tickets with the early bird discount rate. After I purchase them, will both my friend and myself be admitted into early convention floor access? Do they admit D23 members into the panels in a preferred access kind of deal? I vaguely remember Disney admitting Sorcerer package first, then D23 members, then Expo attendees. No, I don't think that is quite correct. There are different levels of tickets that you can purchase, and then of course there are those with other types of passes like media passes or employees or things like that. But basically you've got your Sorcerer package, and then for the panels at least you got your Sorcerer package, and then I think this year it's just Sorcerers, or rather next year there's Sorcerers and everybody else. So if you didn't buy one of those really expensive Sorcerer tickets, you're going to be kind of in with everybody else. But yes, D23 members will get a few additional perks, show floor access, early access, that kind of thing. So you just have to, I'm pretty sure you have to be an active D23 member at the time, though. You can't just have it now, and if it expires by then, you won't be able to use it because you'll need your D23 membership card to make all of that happen. I believe. I could be wrong about a little bit of that, but I don't think I am. Continuing on with this long but very interesting email. Next up, he writes, we'll be staying at the Disneyland Hotel for 5 nights following the expo, and I was pricing out a 6-night stay and with park hoppers, and it came out in the neighborhood of roughly $3,500. What's the best way to buy tickets and such? Is it best to buy a vacation package or buy things separately, et cetera, et cetera? A Disneyland Hotel, great place to stay. Yes, it can be expensive, and certainly when you add the tickets on there, it can get even pricier. I can't say that one method is better than another. Those are questions maybe better for a travel agent that could help you out kind of monitoring those deals. There are always ways of getting the best deal on a hotel. Tickets, harder to get really good deals on, so not much else I can add to that. Let's see, 2 more little sections here asking about, I'd like to try Carthay Circle Restaurant. We're thinking about doing the World of Color dining package and also the Fantasmic dessert package, though it's super pricey. Are there any other places in particular that I haven't covered that we should look into for some great eats? I know I want to try your chicken nachos, but I forget where you say they serve them. Yes, Whitewater Snacks at the Grand Californian is where you want to get those chicken nachos. They are delicious, and I would devour some right now if they were in front of me. That would be amazing. And of course, if you have any way of getting an In-N-Out Burger, I would recommend that as well, but that has nothing to do with Disney. As far as other places, really, I didn't read all of the places that you just mentioned, but there are lots of great restaurants throughout both parks, and you mentioned really the biggest ones. I can't say that I would recommend too many more past Blue Bayou and Cafe Orleans and all the ones there. You've kind of hit on all of my favorites, and Carthay Circle Restaurant is really fantastic. Final part of Steven's long email, which hopefully is helping any of you out there who are also planning trips to Disneyland. Steven writes, we may consider going on the Walk and Waltz Disneyland Footsteps tour if there is time of it. I just want to clarify, do they venture into the entrances of both Club 33 and Walt's apartment now? Yes, the new version of the Walk and Waltz Footsteps tour peaks inside Club 33, but actually goes inside Walt's apartment, which is fantastic. I have never actually even been in Walt's apartment, so I may have to do that tour next time I'm out there. Sounds really exciting, and I definitely want to add that to or rather check that off of my Disney to-do list. So there you go. Hopefully I helped a little bit on your upcoming Disneyland trip, and as I said, hopefully that helped anyone else out there also planning a Disneyland trip and Universal and all of that. Moving on to the next email, which comes in from Scott, who writes, longtime listener, and I know you mentioned more than once that you're a big fan of the Haunted Mansion attraction. My question is that have you ever read the Haunted Mansion comic books that came out a few years ago, and what's your feeling on the original Haunted Mansion movie with Eddie Murphy and the upcoming movie? My second question is, have you heard what they are going to be doing with the old People Mover / Rocket Rod track at Disneyland? Scott, to answer your first questions, I do have all of those comic books, and I enjoyed them. I didn't actually go through... I don't think I ever got around to reading all of them. I think I completely forgot about them, to be honest, so I need to go back and do that. But what I did read, I enjoyed those comics very much, and I was disappointed to see that run end so quickly. I think it was only maybe 5, 6, 7 issues at the most, and then it stopped. So I would have liked to have seen more of that. The artwork was fantastic for those comics. Haunted Mansion movie with Eddie Murphy, no, that just doesn't exist in my mind. Well, maybe it does a little bit. Music for that movie is fantastic. Some of the visuals, the Rick Baker makeup, and some of all that is good. The movie itself is awful, just simply awful, and I don't ever really want to see it again, ever. I am very much looking forward to seeing what Guillermo del Toro manages to put together for his version of an upcoming Haunted Mansion movie, if that project ever happens, which I certainly hope it does. Here's a really interesting email from Christy, who had a chance recently to have a bit of a run-in with the new FastPass Plus that Disney is testing. Of course, it's kind of the ongoing new version of FastPass that Disney is slowly testing little by little with the ability to pre-reserve times to go on rides. There'll be the RFID-based cards where you walk up to an attraction and you tap it up against the little device and it lets you in, etc., etc. In fact, about 10 days from now or so is when the next phase of that should be hitting the parks, where you're going to see a lot more of these RFID devices popping up in front of attractions, not only at the Magic Kingdom, but also over at Disney's Hollywood Studios. I probably should have mentioned this in the news section at the top of the show, that those posts, themed this time, themed posts are showing up or have shown up in front of just about every attraction at Hollywood Studios, as well as many at the Magic Kingdom. So phase 2 of this testing definitely beginning very soon. But anyway, as part of that, Christy wrote in and said, I thought you'd like to hear about my most recent experience with the new Fast Pass Plus that Disney is testing. Nathan, my husband, and I are going on our honeymoon in a couple of weeks, and we are lucky enough to get the be part of a special test during your upcoming Walt Disney World visit email, which is an invitation to try the Fast Pass Plus system, i.e. getting 5 Fast Passes in advance in the mail for a day in the Magic Kingdom. The process looked easy enough, and I followed the directions exactly, but kept getting 2 different error messages, one that my name didn't match the reservation, and the other one that this does not exist. After triple checking everything and trying it on different browsers, all of which are the updated versions, it still didn't work. So the next morning I called the number listed at the bottom of the email and worked with a cast member, and he couldn't figure it out either. He noted this is a new one and was going to send it up to the tech department. He said he kept trying, and of course I will, but I doubt we'll be able to get it resolved in time to take part in the test, although he did say you could pick up the passes at the Magical Express desk at the airport. Just wanted to share this update with everyone that I think based on this experience, they do still have quite a ways to go before this system is ready. I'm not disappointed that I won't be able to get to try the system in the parks, as I'm sure it's something I'm not sure it's something I would use anyway. Days down there are already scheduled to the 9s when I go to Disney, so one more thing would probably make things a little less relaxing. However, I was glad I got the opportunity to give them some feedback and help them out, and Disney was very appreciative. So, Christy, good to hear that, it's certainly very much in the testing phase. I'm sure there's a lot of bugs, a lot of kinks, a lot of logistics that need to be worked out before they roll out FastPass Plus or Next-Gen FastPass or whatever you want to call it, FastPass 2.0, to the general public. I'm sure there are many variations of the system that they are going to sort of test little by little before it is all ready. Next, an email from Katie, who writes, just wanted to tell you how big of a fan I am of your show. My sister found your show earlier this summer, and we have been nonstop listening to it all summer. You give such good insight to everything, and it really helps me stay connected even when I'm not in the park. Our family is going down in the last week in September for all the Halloween festivities and the Food and Wine Festival. With this being our first time at Disney in September, what would be the one thing you would recommend that we have to see? Katie, good question. I think you actually did just say the 2 things that I would say. Food and Wine Festival, love it. Absolutely love it over at Epcot. One of my favorite events of the year. I always look forward to it. Definitely make sure you spend plenty of time there. Go for lunch and dinner, maybe, or go for 2 different meals, 2 different days. It is a phenomenal experience with so many different options that no way you'll be able to sample it all in just one trip through. Halloween, definitely. It's moving into that season now. By the end of September, it'll be totally in full swing, and if you're doing Not So Scary, you'll have a great time there, or just enjoying the decorations all over. So I'm not sure if I can come up with anything else besides what you mentioned. I think it sounds like you're really on top of it. Hopefully I've given you some good, helpful advice over the episodes you've been listening to all summer, and thanks for listening. Hopefully you'll continue to enjoy the show. Next up, another rather lengthy email, but this one is on a completely different topic than the last one. This one comes in from Jordan, who writes, let's see, I finished yesterday's show, and I have a few responses to the listener feedback sessions. Let's see. The 3 topics are Super Bowl, 6th Day, and international program. So here we go. First up, you had somebody write in to ask about the crowds around the Super Bowl, and in my experience, Disneyland a couple of years ago, Super Bowl Sunday is very busy. I think many people will have the same idea that it's a good time to go, as most of the people would be watching at home watching the game, so it's not a good weekend to go. Next, on the subject of Disneyland's new 5-day limit on tickets, I was almost a victim on this new policy. I just got back from Disneyland, and due to flight costs, it worked out that we would have 5 full days, and the evening when we flew in to do things around Anaheim. We thought about doing a tour on our last day, but due to different circumstances, we decided to spend the time at Disneyland, and while researching tickets, tickets. I saw 5 days was the max, so I called about 6 weeks ago and explained, and the cast member assured me there was no problem that they could add the extra day for $15 to $20. But when we arrived, went to our ticket booth, bought our tickets, and asked again, and the cast member said it would not be possible, and we had to pay for a full day. When I told him about the phone call, he went and checked with his lead and said if there's a lead involved, there's a special screen they could go to make it work, and it would be $15. So interesting development there. Depended on the cast member, and then he continued on, actually. Happy, we went into the park for about 3 hours in the night and spent the rest of the week doing everything, and on the 5th day we went back to the ticket booth to add our 6th day, and the first cast member said it wasn't possible, so we asked for a lead as instructed. The lead then said, no, that screen doesn't exist anymore, you have to pay full price. At this point I argued that we wouldn't have come in Monday for 3 hours had I known they were going to charge us full price, and we were close to going to guest relations to see what could be done, and the lead decided to give us complimentary tickets. We never asked for them, we just wanted to pay our $15, and the new policy is definitely in effect. So good to know there, Jordan. And finally, to the person from the UK wanting to start a career at Disney, as a former international program participant myself, I can speak from a bit of experience. Directly, it is not a way to start a career at Disney. Sure, it gets you there and gives you the experience of working in the park. However, when your visa is up, you have to go home, except in a few rare cases. I only know of 3 people personally who stayed, 2 of which had dual citizenship, therefore didn't need the visa to work, and 1 who married somebody who worked at Soarin'. As such, all 3 could continue to work legally after the program ended. While sometimes it is possible to do a second or some cases third program, I have heard they will sometimes immediately reject your reapplication on the basis of it being a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. While I would recommend to anyone interested in doing the program to do it, don't go in thinking it's the start of a new life or career, as you'll most likely end up being even more sad when it's time to go home. Jordan, excellent tips there. I am not as familiar, obviously, as you are with the international program, simply because you took part in it. So it's definitely a good bit of information to know that you're not going to really find that sort of way into Disney through the international program, at least not directly. You might make some connections, you might make some friends. Of course, you can't predict that. But directly, it sounds like, due to visa issues and that sort of thing, you'll have to find your own way of working in this country when it all ends. A few more emails to go, though much, much shorter ones now. Let's get right through these. Next up is from Alex, who writes, me, my sister, my mom, my dad, and my brother are going to bring my brother's girlfriend, Jody, from the UK to Florida for the first time, and we've all been 17 times to Florida. We'll be arriving December, but cannot make up our minds about what the number one or more things that we must take Jody to see at Disney World. Can you help? Thank you. And by the way, Jody loves Piglet from Winnie the Pooh. Well, clearly, if Jody loves Piglet from Winnie the Pooh, you need to make your way on over to the Winnie the Pooh ride over in Fantasyland. It's certainly there, and you'll enjoy it. Maybe you'll even come across Piglet and pals from the 100 Acre Wood and have a chance to meet and get your photo with them. Certainly got to make that a priority if that's one of her favorites. But as far as what to take her if she's never been, well, I'd just say everything. Go for it. If you find it fun, chances are she will too. I can't really say one thing over another, but definitely just have fun. Whatever you want to do, I'm sure she will enjoy it as well. Next up, an email from Evan, who writes, I want to thank you for putting together an incredible show each and every week, and just wanted to say that your show makes the Sunday blues more bearable. In response to Nate from last week, in case he ever goes to Disneyland, he may notice that there is a nod to the predecessor of the Finding Nemo submarines. If you look closely at the end of the ride, you can spot the sea serpent and a mermaid that have been covered with rock. The sea monster is noticeable, but I still have yet to find the mermaid after numerous rides. On another note, I too agree with some other listeners about their views on the direction Disney seems to be heading in. They should indeed give Walt more attention and no doubt put his first name back on the logo. Well, Evan, yes, there are definitely tributes to the old submarine voyage on the Finding Nemo submarine voyage. I think we were talking about 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea with the Little Mermaid out here, so it's nice to have both coasts kind of embracing that past. We, of course, miss 20,000 Leagues out here, and Submarine Voyage has been converted, if you will, into Finding Nemo, which I love that ride. I hope it doesn't leave, because any chance I get to go under the sea and be in one of those submarines and sort of relive those memories of, not exactly the same, but it's close enough with the bubbles and dive and all of that. Definitely something that I enjoy. Next email from Ashley from England writes, I've been meaning to email this for a few weeks, and anyway, Colin Farrell was on a movie review show / podcast recently and was promoting Total Recall, but he was asked about Saving Mr. Banks and said the following, quote, "It's a beautiful script about Walt Disney's attempt to charm P.L. Travers into giving up the rights for Mary Poppins so that Disney could adapt and make it into the film that became very iconic with Julie Andrews. It's about that period when P.L. Travers, who wrote Mary Poppins, went over to Los Angeles and spent 3 weeks there at the Disney Studios and kept resisting until she finally gave up. Emma Thompson's going to play PL, and Tom Hanks will play Walt Disney, and I get to play Miss Thompson's father in flashbacks, which is something of an honor." Simon says, I think it was the inspiration for... anyway, so the podcast is from Simon Mayo, who then goes on to say, I think it was the inspiration for Mr. Banks, so maybe you'll get to sing again. Let's go fly a kite or something. And Colin replied, I don't know if that will be the exact era, but I will probably at least get to whistle a tune. The podcast is Simon Mayo's film review on BBC 5 Live, and as Ashley puts, we already knew about the casting story, but it was happy to hear an actor comment on the movie. Ashley, you're right. It is good to hear sort of a official word about the film and where it's going to take place. Of course, Disney has yet to really comment much at all or anything at all about this film or what's going to be how it's going to be formed together, really even make the announcement. It's all kind of been this floating around hearsay at this point, but if Colin Farrell is speaking out publicly about it, I can't imagine it's too far back before Disney really confirms all the details about the film. And it looks like I was wrong. I actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more emails. I didn't scroll far enough before. That's no problem. We'll just keep on rolling because I refuse to get behind on this listener feedback stuff again because that leads to far too many emails piling up. So let's keep on rolling here. Next up, Mike from Atlanta writes in and says, I'll be heading to Anaheim for the last week of September. I'll be hitting Disneyland, DCA, and Universal Hollywood. It's been many years since I've been. Is there anything you can recommend not missing besides the obvious Cars Land at DCA and Transformers at Universal? Well, Mike, it has been you said it's been a few years, so that's a lot. I mean, I don't know how many years is, but California Adventure certainly has had a tremendous transformation over the last few years. You mentioned Cars Land, but don't forget about Buena Vista Street and The Little Mermaid and World of Color, and I'm probably even forgetting about stuff. All the stuff around the Paradise Pier, the games of the Boardwalk, and Mickey's Fun Wheel, and Goofy's Sky School, and the Blue Sky Cellar, and the list just goes on and on. I mean, you'll be able to spend plenty of time, multiple days at Disney California Adventure, certainly. And yes, you mentioned Transformers Universal, which is something you certainly should look forward to, and I'm sure there have been changes over the last few years at Disneyland as well that you'll notice since the last time that you were there, but really DCA is the place you're going to want to focus. It's the most drastic changes in recent years. Next up, an email from Lee from Pennsylvania who writes, I am going to the Philadelphia D23 Faniversary event. Have you been to the Orlando one? Is it the same thing? What should I expect, and how long is the event? Well, Lee, I've got, I don't think I covered Faniversary too much on the show when I went because we had already covered it when we sent Jeremiah Dawes out there to the very first one out in California. He wrote an article for us over on InsideTheMagic.net, so that's going to be your best bet to kind of get an idea about it. Head to the website, search for Faniversary, look for that article from a few months ago, and yes, it's going to be pretty much the same thing. They tweak it a little bit from city to city, but more or less, the experience that you're going to have in Philadelphia is going to be pretty much identical to the one that was here in Orlando and to the one that was in California and everywhere else. The event, if I remember correctly, was an hour to an hour and a half. It wasn't terribly long, and you should basically expect to be seeing a couple of speakers on the screen, a lot of stuff speakers on stage, a lot of stuff up on screens, a lot of fellow Disney fans in the audience, and just sit back and sort of enjoy the presentation. It's not incredibly fancy, no real surprises, but it is rather entertaining. Nikki writes in and says, my family and I are planning to travel to Japan soon, and we're going to spend a day at Tokyo Disneyland. Since we're only there for one day, we want to ride as many rides as we possibly can. Fast Pass is a helpful way to avoid long lines, but I understand the Fast Pass regulations may vary between parks. Disneyland in LA is very relaxed about guests returning to a fast passable attraction later. Do you know if Tokyo Disneyland is the same? Nikki, I actually am not familiar with the Fast Pass system at Tokyo Disneyland. The only changes in the rules that I have heard is at Walt Disney World, where it's being strictly enforced, and that is directly related to this FastPass Plus, next-gen FastPass thing that's going on. They couldn't have sort of that leftover FastPass being used anymore for that system to work. So I'm pretty sure that the rest of the parks all over the world, you're not going to run into that same problem, but don't quote me on that. Next email from Mike is who writes, I was wondering if you've ever visited Marceline, Missouri, the hometown of Walt Disney. I am planning a trip to St. Louis and Kansas City to visit family and planning on spending a day in Marceline. Do you have any tips on what to see and what the Walt Disney Hometown Museum is like? Mike, no, unfortunately, I have not been there. I've been to many Disney-related places, certainly been to the Walt Disney Family Museum a few months ago, actually almost a year ago at this point, out in San Francisco, which is fantastic, but I haven't made it to Marceline yet. Definitely on the to-do list, so if you see something amazing and you want to write in about it, definitely let me know, but I don't have any tips for you, unfortunately. Next, email from Mitchell writes, last week you listed the upcoming movies for the next 12 months. Not sure if you knew this or just forgot, or maybe you didn't know, but The Muppets Christmas Carol is being re-released in the UK starting November 23rd. I also had a question about the new test track, or Tron track as people are calling it. Will the outside portion of the ride be the same, or will they put a roof over it or do something new? Also, on a few episodes, you said that you might do an RSS feed for your videos again. Are you going to do that? Well, Mitchell, you're right. I didn't mention anything for the UK. I was actually talking about United States releases, so that's great to hear that The Muppets Christmas Carol will be hitting theaters once again. Outside portion of Test Track, Disney has not commented specifically on that. They've said the track itself will remain the same, the basic ride structure will remain the same, but what they're going to do to the outside is anyone's guess at this point. Nobody's seen any activity as far as enclosing it, but don't know. It's certainly a possibility, I suppose. And I kind of, to answer your third question, I kind of forgot about that whole RSS feed thing for the videos. I think I said I was going to try it and see how many people were interested in it, and then I just simply didn't. So I'm going to put that back on the to-do list, and maybe I'll give it a shot soon. I'll certainly let everybody know when I do, or if I do. Okay, now we're down to the last few emails here. Next from Malcolm, who writes, I've recently thought about making a Disneyland... Okay, hold on. I lost my place completely. Starting over. This email is from Malcolm, who writes, I'm a longtime fan of Inside the Magic. I have been watching since I was 10, and I've recently thought about making a Disneyland show and advice, a Disneyland advice and information web series for teens. And I was wondering whether you had any advice about doing a theme park web series. Also, do you know of any cool things for teens to do at the Disneyland Resort? And I have a tip for all. This is more directed to people going to California Adventure. Oftentimes when I go to the park and if I want to find a good spot for World of Color, I always have to go early. If you want a good way to pass the time before, when you get in the pre-show line, go over to the wharf and get some food and bring it with you in line and eat while you're waiting for the show. Malcolm, that is a great tip. I have done just that. I can't remember the name of it, but the little Asian eatery over in the wharf area of California Adventure has this great, very portable food, a number of different flavors that you can have beef and chicken and rice and all that good stuff. And then, yes, you can absolutely bring it over and take it with you while waiting in line for your section for World of Color. Fantastic way to pass the time while eating some good food, and then you'll be nice and full and ready to watch the show. So good stuff there. As far as advice for making your advice and information web series, well, that's got to kind of come from you. You got to decide on your own direction, your own sort of niche in the world, and if you've got advice to share with teens for Disneyland, of which I'm sure there is plenty to do, I'm sure you can come up with those ideas all on your own. Whatever you like to do as a teen in the parks, chances are other teens like it as well, and if you come up with some fun ideas, that'll be your sort of angle. So good luck with your project. Adrienne writes in and says, I know you won't know much on this subject, but maybe your listeners might. I will be going on a family vacation to Walt Disney World in mid-October, and I am 6 months pregnant. Just wondering if anyone has any tips on being pregnant in the parks. I know about ride restrictions already, but thought maybe some had some aha moments in their own experiences that might be helpful to know. Well, Adrienne, you're absolutely right. I certainly know nothing on that subject. I certainly have never been to the parks while pregnant, and honestly, I don't even think I've ever traveled with anybody who's been pregnant in the parks. So I'll throw this one out to the listeners. Any of you, particularly women out there, if you've been to the parks while pregnant, if you have any great tips that you can share, I think this is actually a topic we've never talked about here on the show in the however long, 7, 8 years. I don't know. I've lost track. But yeah, so definitely send those tips in. Good question. 2 more emails. First, Logan writes in and says, recently found out about your podcast, watching on YouTube every Monday night. I have a friend who's a cast member at the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World, and he told me about the new Avatar Land at Animal Kingdom that they'll be partnering with James Cameron, that they will start construction sometime in late 2013, be completed by 2016, and it will go behind Asia and Everest. Logan, could be. It's possible. They certainly have a lot of land back there that has been cleared back there, behind Asia and behind Everest. But many have said that it's going to go where Camp Mini Mickey is. Hard to say at this point. Hard to say if Avatar Land is even going to, get off the ground. Certainly, lots of rumors flying around about, things I talked about at the top of the show. I don't know. We'll see. Disney isn't saying much at this point, so all rumors. And finally, an email from somebody simply going by J, the letter J. So Jay writes, let me thank you for providing not only an incredible show, but also a very reliable one as well. I have a question for you. I am a very big, huge Haunted Mansion fan. That being said, I was curious what you and your listeners' favorite rides are in all the parks, Universal included. And I wanted to add that from personal experience, the best time to go with the least crowds is the end of the last week of March and the first 2 weeks of April. That's for all the parks, including Universal. Well, Jay, I completely agree with you. Haunted Mansion, number 1, definitely my favorite attraction by far. I can't speak for the thousands of listeners out there. That would take a very long time if I said everybody's favorite attraction. So I'm just going to go ahead and say everybody's favorite attraction is the Haunted Mansion, because it really should be. There's no question about it. That's the best ride out there. So we'll just go with that. As far as your crowd comment, that is a good time to go. End of March, early April. You might run into a little bit of spring break crowds then, but not too bad. It is a good time to go, and the weather's usually pretty darn nice then as well. So that'll do it for listener feedback this week.
Tomorrow.
And here we are at the end of show 388. Lots of news, lots of listener feedback, and just a little bit of Halloween as we ease our way into the Halloween season. Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, the very first, is just a couple of days from now, and I will be going on Friday, which means next week on the show, you might just hear something from the party. You might not. I don't know. Hard to say from week to week. You never know what's going to happen all the time on this show, but I am definitely looking forward to jumping full steam into not only that party, but also maybe a little bit of more Halloween Horror Nights preview before it all launches in a couple of weeks, and Hallow Scream over at Busch Gardens. I'm even going to venture out and go to a couple other local haunts that I've never been to as well, and really just take it all in for the next couple of months, because this is by far the best season of the year for me, although Christmas is a close second, and we're not going to talk about that yet. A little early to talk about that one quite yet. So anyway, I want to thank Magical Travel for sponsoring this week's episode of Inside the Magic. You can find out more about their services by visiting magicaltravel.com. Also, visit themeparkconnection.com if you are a Disney collector, or maybe you just want to see some items from Disney past. You will certainly be able to see those at their store and warehouse here in the Orlando area, or you can hop onto their website to check out items there as well. Themeparkconnection.com is the website once again. And also visit us over at lanyardlab.com to see all the different styles and custom lanyard options that we have available. You can request a price quote today to receive a free digital preview of your lanyard design. And, of course, visit us over at InsideTheMagic.net. It is your source for Disney and theme park news. In addition to these podcasts, you'll find lots of videos, photos, news, articles, and plenty more. And check out our videos on YouTube. We have tens of thousands of subscribers and millions of YouTube views, so definitely check out that channel. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook and all that good social media stuff to stay up to date on all the latest Disney and theme park fun between episodes of this show. So thanks for listening each and every week, and have a magical week. Bye.
There's a great big beautiful tomorrow.